What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review the debut album by rapper Plies. Basically, this project is called The Real Testament, and it came out in the summer of 2007. The thing about this particular project is just the fact that Plies kind of came on the scene more of like a surprise type tip, kind of similar to folks like Rocco and some of those type folks, like Rich Boy, some of those type folks that just really came on the scene with this like a huge boisterous kind of single. Not so much like an industry plant, but just kind of came out of nowhere and just all of a sudden, like 5 minutes ago, you may not have known who he was, but 5 minutes later, he's like one of the top poppin' type ones in like rap music as far as pitches like that kind of happen, at least in southern rap, as far as those sorts of things kind of go. He had a number of hit singles. He was pretty large just between like about the summer of 2007 to about the summer of 2010, pitches like that. He dropped a series of albums, but he hasn't really put out any albums since 2010, which is kind of unfortunate. But he has dropped a number of mixtapes. I haven't gotten to Plies just yet, but I felt like it's finally time to do it. So I do know some of his music, and I do want to say that this is like a relative classic here. It may not get like a classic score full blown, but it's definitely a very excellent type one. You can do way worse than not fucking. You can do way worse than this project, I'd have to say. So it's going to get a pretty high score, just to be able to say that. Just within the concept, this is a very defining type project. Just had a lot of appeal. Just the atmosphere of this particular product and the singles that were atmosphere of this product and the three singles that were off this project were pretty large. Once again, with more projects from 2007, Wikipedia doesn't really list all the singles off this product, but there was a third one after Hypnotize. If folks like that didn't know, I would have to say the third single was kind of pseudo, like I Am the Club. It was just kind of the concept. It didn't chart that heavily. It was just kind of one that was attempted, but didn't really as full blown catch on as far as pitches like that kind of happened. But it's a pretty boisterous type of appeals. It's kind of the concept that, in like 2006, Plies wasn't really that known about, but I looked some information up about him. Apparently, he had like a Gangsta Grills mixtape or something like that. He at least did something with DJ Drama in 2006. So I'm definitely going to get to more products like that. But I do appreciate a lot of these particular albums. I'd have to say in particular, just some excellent type stuff. But I do appreciate a lot of these projects here, so I'm going to have to get to some more of these. But yeah, just to say about this is very much like a summer breeze type album. I would have to say just a good concept. If you like Tupac's vibes from 1996 and 1994 with albums like Thug Life Volume 1 and All Eyes on Me and like the Don Illuminati 7-Day Theory, some of those type products by Tupac were more of him kind of more Tupac kind of being on like his ravenous summer vibes with songs like Ambitions, Azarida, California Love, and Thug Passion, some of those type ones. This is definitely Plies in a nutshell in this particular project. He really captures like that Tupac Thug Life type energy. It's a real excellent concept, especially with songs like Shoddy and Kept It Too Real and Goons Lurkin', some of those type ones. Just a lot of good boisterous type ones on here. Plies is kind of like I want to say that Plies has some of that street poetry just within a sense, just kind of in a more southern fried and just Miami, Florida type aspect just within that pitch behind it. But a lot of this just really is like the 2000s, late 2000s rendition of Tupac, which lasted for a good while. It's too bad that the Plies era kind of ran its course quicker than it needed to because this kind of concept, a lot of this is pretty dope to kind of get some of these. There are some great hooks on here. Plies is really good at some of these ladies type songs. He's kind of similar to like folks like Twista and Too Short, some of those type folks that just could easily get like a string of ladies songs that just would consistently. Fabulous is another one that kind of does that. Some of these type folks that just could get like a string of lady songs, and those were always like some of the go-to points to kind of get off those albums. But on this particular album, there's more than a few that kind of have that, and not all of them have hook singers on here. There's some hooks by Akon, Tank, and T-Pain. They're all real excellent, but there's some other songs on here like One Mo Time and some of those type ones that have some of that appeal as well. But yeah, I'll go ahead and talk about the singles off this album. So there were three of them. I'm going to count it as if there were three because I am going to talk about like the third single, I Am the Club. But basically, the first single is Shoddy, and this has T-Pain on the hook. This is a real nice one, good kickoff of like an album. One of the first songs I remember hearing by Plies back in the day is like a summer breeze, kind of candid, out and about, kind of frolicking of a song I would have to say in particular. This one definitely gives like late 2000s kind of Tupac vibes, I'd have to say. Just Tupac vibes circa the late 2000s, even though Tupac just gives like late 2000s Tupac vibes of what Tupac would have sounded like had he made it to like the late 2000s, I'd have to say. And it's like a great hooky kind of pastiming of a song, I'd have to say. So this is definitely just some vicious kind of thug life type energy. Real nice summer frolicking type single. Just real good bounce about it. Just in particular has a beautiful hook on here. Just real excellent concept. This is back when T-Pain completely had the Midas touch pitches like that as far as those kind of appeals kind of went. It's real good chemistry and combination here. Definitely needed another song like this in terms of like Plies and T-Pain kind of team ups. I want to say this is the only real song that they did. I mean, I think Plies and T-Pain were also on the song I'm So Hood by DJ Khaled. But in terms of like a Plies solo song where he had T-Pain, there might have been more, but I question how many there full blown were. I would have been nice to have seen another T-Pain Plies type song. But this is definitely a knockout type song. I'd have to say definite home run type song to kind of get here. Just real summer smashing pitches like that. Last the whole summer pitches like that. Pretty excellent follow-up single to talk about this one. This one's not as commonly talked about as much, but it is another pretty good highlight is Hypnotized. Basically, this one's kind of like a dewy, kind of later in the summer kind of malaise of a song. I'd say this one's a little bit makeshift with like some good thuggish type energy. I do appreciate the concept of it. There's like a good combo with Shoddy, I would definitely have to say, and it's like a superb kind of Akon hook and background vocals on here. I'd have to say, and it's like a Chica's kind of day frolic of a song. I'd have to say, definitely some good day activity. Just the concept of some of this, a little bit more malaise, like I was saying, just the concept of this more 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock p.m. pitches like that. Almost can be like a relative summer stretcher, just pitches like that, just some car traverse pitches like that, whether it's class or work, some of those type bears. And it's kind of the concept of some relative makeshift. I feel like Plies has a little bit of makeshift on here, not too terribly much, but just the concept of some that relative standard dredge. This is about as close as you're going to get in terms of like marketable singles on this particular album. But I do like the concept of some of that extra kind of songwriting just within the pitch behind it. Has some of that thuggish type energy, but also has the dredge attached to it too, some makeshift kind of dredge. So that's a good concept. And then the would-be third single, the one that was the least attempted but didn't chart that heavily, was I Am the Club. This is another nice one. It's like a vicious kind of club hitter, I would definitely have to say. Without a hook singer on there, I would definitely suppose maybe that's the reason why I didn't chart as heavily, but still pretty overall heavy hitting song. I'd have to say it's like some basic night outing turn up, I would definitely have to say. And this is like some get sippage and kind of vibe with some crunkness type appeal about this particular one. It's a real good turn up type one. This Plies being pretty carnivorous. He's a pretty wild party animal, I'd have to say. It's not as full blown shown on this particular project. This is actually a pretty balanced type project in terms of the songwriting. It's very similar to like Tupac's All Eyes on Me and Thug Life, or it has some of those California love and ambitions as a writer type moments, but it kind of balances it with other things off this particular album. I'd have to say it's a pretty excellent concept, kind of get some of that, but this is definitely one of the more ferocious ones on here, as this is like more night turn up compared to like Shoddy and Hypnotized, which is more day and late day as far as those pitches can happen. But this is just some vicious just amongst that particular Traverse of Demon time. Good concept for that. But yeah, I would have to say, so there's 15 songs on this particular album, and out of those 15, I wound up recommending 11. Out of those 15, I wound up recommending 11, so that's pretty close to a classic score. Just to say, the only 4 songs I don't recommend in some fashion on here. Now, there are some Best Buy bonus tracks, but I'm not going to cover those. I do at least remember the song Water a little bit, but I don't remember the rest of these. I feel like they're kind of okay. And there's like a deluxe edition bonus track called Bid Long that's not on the Spotify edition either. But this would have to say, I'm not sure that Best Buy still has those songs. So I'm not really sure how you would go about getting those 3 extra songs in this particular package just to be able to say. I mean, you might be able to just download them or find them wherever you could find them. I'm not really sure how to get it across like the Best Buy edition or the deluxe edition as far as that kind of happens. But I'm going to review the 15 song edition that ends with Merkin Season. So basically, the 4 songs I don't recommend on here would be 100 Years, I Know You Workin', Running My Mama Crazy, and Merkin Season. Which basically 100 Years and I Know You Workin' are just more concepts of like legality in terms like that. Just pitches like, you know, your homie's going to prison, some of those type pitches. Had a relative. I did like the somewhat production on 100 Years, but just the composition, how that particularly was pulled off, was just not quite as executed as well. I kind of felt like it was the same way. It's kind of the same way with I Know You Working, which is just talking about cops and pitches like that. But the amalgamation behind these songs was just not as effective, or really the cadence behind the aspect of really trying to listen to some of those. I'd have to say Running My Mama Crazy was just one of those Tupac type songs like Dear Mama, some of those type pitches, or like Lovin' Me by Nelly, some of those type fares. I'd have to say just the concept behind it. I recognize the concept of just being more homely and just more insular as far as that pitch kind of having, but it's just not a very affable type one. Just felt a little bit over dramatic. Merkin Season was some pretty vicious turn up that just reminds me a lot of like 3-6 Mafia Project Pat type folks as far as that particular pitch kind of happens. But that one was just a lot. I feel like Merkin Season's a pretty good song to smoke to, and like night traverse pitches like that, just making gas station runs, some of that type fare. But just the ruggedness of that particular song is just a little bit more bleak than like the relative concept. I mean, that one's just pretty much straight gangster rap as far as that pitch. I mean, that particular song is like in straight full blown Merc mode as far as that particular pitch kind of has with it. So it's just the more vicious type turn up just within the concept. I mean, it's a good smoking song within that sense, but it's just not very, doesn't have like too much affability in like a more relative, not necessarily commercial sense, but just more kind of just recreational type sense. I'd have to say it's just full blown kind of on a mission and kind of more just in a more fierce type mode, I'd have to say in particular. So it's just kind of the concept. I just look at it. It's a good relative song. It's just the concept of you're not kind of in a more feral type mindset just within the approach behind it. It's just not quite as affable one. But but yeah, damn near this project is a pretty full blown classic, I'd have to say. There's just a lot of good moments on here. I mean, I feel like maybe it's a song shy of being more of like a full blown classic, but it's definitely going to get an above average score. So I feel like some of these highlights on here, Kept It Too Real is one of the best songs off this particular album. This is one of the album's most wicked beats, I'd have to say, and vibes just overall. I'd have to suppose it's like an easy kind of nightclub noise. I'd have to suppose this definitely works for like some nightclub ruminating. I'd have to say this is a real talk. This is definitely like a real talk song and kind of vibe overall, I'd have to say. So it's a pretty good pitch for that. Just simple kind of thuggish type fare to kind of get. Just a real wicked type one, just being out and about, some drinks in your system. If homies are pissing you off or just pitches, you're just realizing that you're rich and folks are jealous, pitches like that, some of those type fares, just the concept of just having status problems, some of those type fares as far as that particular kind of happens. It's a good concept just being out and about and just having standard drama, but it's a pretty good pitch. Real effective type song, like some of these real talk type songs. Plies has wisdom that he shares oftenly enough on places like Instagram, some of those type places. Just a good concept behind that. There weren't too many songs like this before like 2007 pitches like that. I mean, there probably were from like folks like Tupac or Scarface or like Trick Daddy, some of those type folks, but they don't oftenly pop up. You is a pretty nice one. This has Tank on the hook. This is a real effective type one. This is like another stock hooky ladies gem, I'd have to say, with like some syrupy kind of night energy. I would definitely say this is like a demon time blazer, I would have to suppose in particular. And it's like a feel good kind of freak song, I'd have to say in particular. It's a pretty good hitter. So it's just a nice one. Real hooky type one, just real good melodic vocals and overall this glossy kind of production on this particular one. Just real nice nightclub bounces, pitches like that. This goes hand in hand with like I Am the Club and Hypnotized and some of those type pitches. Real good, excellent type fare. So once again, Plies had some pretty good nightlife on here. There's not a ton of these songs that are full blown like that, but this is a real nice one to kind of get. Definite good freak song. Friday is a pretty nice one. This one's a little bit more straightforward. This is more makeshift, kind of on the tip of like Hypnotized, but a little bit more just makeshift bound. I'd have to say it's a good, nice one for some dredge. This is like a relative kind of buzzing Friday of an afternoon, I'd have to say. Friday evening pitches like that. It's like a lace things up music, I'd have to suppose. Some good errands music, but also in the process of getting ready to get crunk soon, I would have to say. Just a good concept behind that. Do appreciate some of these concepts. I would almost say that this could be more of like Thursday type music more so than Friday type music. Just the concept of having some things to lace up. For the most part, Friday should be relatively kind of taken care of if you're going to get as crunk as some of the songs on this particular album. But I do like the concept of this being like a relative song just to kind of lace some things up and just get ready to get towards it. Just some relative dredge type music, some car commerce pitches like that of just getting ready, shedding like the work shift and getting ready to get turned out, get to songs like You and I Am the Club and Hypnotize, some of those type moments. Money Straight is a pretty good gem. It's like a blitzing kind of nightclub energy, I'd have to say about this one. It's like a good solo Plies pairing. I would definitely have to feel like with I Am the Club. Both those songs are some good 1-2 punches for like some night energy as far as pitches like that kind of happen. It's like a quick times kind of heater. Some of these just have some quick living, just the concept of living quick. Some of that type fare, just not really looking back. Some of that type fare, live fast type atmosphere, just pitches like that. Thug life type mentality, summer energy, just summer blaze, just every day in the summer, just being a blitzer and pitches like that. Appreciate the concept of some of this. Just a lot of good glitzy. This one's almost like a crunk type one, Lil Jon type crunk as far as pitches like that kind of happen. I mean, Plies is not really like a full blown lyricist, but he says real stuff. So I just would have to say, as far as that pitch kind of happens, these are just some nice ones to kind of get within that. Just some relative crunk typeness. On My Dick is a pretty nice one. This one's pretty similar to Friday, just in a more dramatic type tone, a little bit more kind of worried type connotation, I'd have to say. It's like a glittery kind of night outing traverse of a song, I'd have to say. The song is jovial but straightforward, kind of thug life makeshift, I would definitely feel like. And this is just kind of get the bills, some kind of get to the bills and Bill Payne type song and errands as far as pitches like that kind of happen. I mean, it's important to kind of have some of these type songs just where it's not all play and no work, but it's just kind of the concept of this one's just a little bit more. This one's a more of a rightfully dramatic type one, just to kind of say if you got shit to do, this is a pretty good concept to lace up some ends and pitches like that, cross the T's, dot the I's as far as pitches like that kind of happen. So it's a good concept for that one. The standard makeshift and pitches like that. One More Time is a pretty nice one. This is a real woozy type one. It's like a woozy kind of personal drama with Chica's kind of summer haze of a song, I'd have to say. It's like a good Plies solo, Chica's bop, I would definitely feel like. And the songwriting definitely gives me like Tupac type vibes. Just something like Run the Streets or like Thug Passion, some of those type ones, some of those relative pitches of this summery type energy. How Do You Want It, some of those type pitches just without the megaton hook. Just some really blitzing type fare. Real nice one. Standard Plies ladies cut, I'd have to suppose. Goons Lurkin is a pretty nice one. It's like a dreary kind of night activity of a song, I'd have to say in particular. It's like a high as hell kind of litty demon time outs of a song. I would definitely feel like just some out and about just for like standard past 7 o'clock p.m. just midnight creep and some of those type fares. It's like a relatively composed kind of candor about this song, I'd have to say. It's not really that vicious or real raw in energy or full blown rugged. It's just a relatively kind of just mild, not necessarily mild, but just tamer and more composed. Just kind of almost sophisticated, but just without the suaveness about it. Just kind of relatively composed type energy, just to say that. And it's like a pretty good snackage cut, I'd have to say. Just a good concept. Just get like some KFC, some pitches like that, some Popeyes, some of those type fares, pick up some Burger King, just really smoke a whole bunch and just really have some kick ass and wicked type tones to kind of have for like some summer outings, just in like that summer night kind of heat. And then a new song that I didn't mess with as much, but I do enjoy the song quite a bit now, is like the Real Testament intro. It's a real nice one. It's like a rugged kind of real talk intro. Definitely feel like this has some dope vibes and kickoff vibes, I would have to say about this particular one. It's definitely like a smoke a couple of sweets, some pitches like that type of song kind of get. And this is just great for some summer nights. So Plies just has some real talk on here. It's a good concept, kind of get some of this. Just him laying down game as to how he sees things within that relative pitch. Just has some good bars on here, despite him not being a full blown lyricist. He still says some real stuff on here just to get towards that. Pretty good wickedness to kind of get towards it. So that's the overall wickedness of this particular product. So I'm going to give the score of this particular album, me recommending 11 out of 15 on here. I'm going to give this album like an 8.75 out of 10. I wanted to give it a lot higher of a score. Originally, I thought that this project was going to get a 10 out of 10, but there's just a small handful of like duds on this particular project. I mean, I feel like the songwriting's at least good to have some of these, just to have some affable type moments similar to like Tupac and Trick Daddy, some of those type folks, but it just doesn't nail it as full blown. It's like the pitch of what it probably needs to. Maybe the production fair could have been better, some pitches like that. It's just kind of the concept. Some of these are just didn't showcase like the full edgy type victory of like some of the more ferocious type ones like Hypnotize and I Am the Club and the Summer Energy of Shoddy, and some of the more real type moments like Kept It Too Real. I mean, I felt like if 100 Years, and I know You Working would have had like the affability of like, and like the spark of a song like Kept It Too Real and some of those type pitches, it probably would have been a full blown classic. It's not to say this is a bad album, it's just the concept that just missed it by a snag. But the social score of this album, I'm going to give the social score of this album like a 9.25 out of 10 because it has a number of turn up songs on here. I mean, Plies for the most part provides like the wickedness in terms of just like some standard fare, pretty quick living type times. Some songs like Money Straight, Friday, Kept It Too Real, Hypnotize, I Am the Club, Shoddy, You, some of those type pitches, On My Dick, One More Time, Goons Lurkin'. I mean, most of these songs on here just have the affable type sense of just like a thug life type energy and like a summer day, summer evening, a little bit of makeshift thrown in, some bills paying, some pitches like that. Just being composed, getting stuff done as far as pitches like that kind of happen, getting to it, not being evicted and pitches like that as far as those particular times kind of happen, just getting towards it and having like some good fare with chicas and pitches like that and some good smoke energy with the homies and pitches like that and just some real talk on top of all that. So it's an overall pretty good concept. So in terms of the future, I am going to review more Plies as far as that particular kind of happens. I definitely want to get to some more of these, including like the Gangsta Grills mixtape we did with DJ Drama, or at least the mixtape he did with DJ Drama, some of those type fairs, because I want to see some of his early days as far as some of the hits that he particularly had. If I can find some more songs he did with T-Pain or some more hook artists, some good lady songs, some pitches like that, and some summer energy, I'm definitely going to tackle those pretty quickly, is what I'd say. So it's an excellent type album here. It's an arguable classic, maybe not a full-blown classic, but definitely an arguable type classic that came pretty close, I'd have to say. So it's an excellent type concept to get some of this, and this is some pretty boisterous summer energy that's definitely worth the investment.